We've got a short panel now on EU legislation, but seen from an international perspective. It's my colleague Ji Kim who's going to moderate this one. Ji, over to you for introductions for the next panel. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks everyone. I'm very excited to be here in beautiful Brussels. My young children are very jealous that they were missing snow, which is not happening in New York. Again, my name is Ji Kim. I am the Chief Legal and Policy Officer for CCI. I have the great privilege of moderating this fantastic panel, which will be an exciting discussion about EU digital assets policy more broadly, but viewed through the prism and perspective of experts from respective jurisdictions, rest of the world, and how they view EU digital assets and the lessons they have learned in their home countries as well. I will briefly introduce our panelists, and I want to apologize to our panelists beforehand. I will not be able to do proper justice to all of your experiences and expertise, so please forgive me. First, right next to me, we have Dr. Clara Guerra. She's a director in the Office for Financial Market Innovation for the government of the Principality of Liechtenstein, where she spearheads initiatives in fintech, blockchain, and legal innovation. She also serves as co-chair of the European Blockchain Association and chair of the NAPA Governmental Advisory Board. Next to her, we have Dr. Lisa Cameron. Lisa is currently chair and founder of the Global Legislators Forum in Digital Assets, and she's probably well known to many of us as previously serving as a leading member of the UK Parliament for nearly a decade, where amongst her many other accomplishments, she was chair of one of the all-party parliamentary groups on crypto and digital assets. Next to her, we have Alex Barden, who is a legal advisor for the NEAR Foundation, which is a Switzerland-based nonprofit supporting the ongoing growth and development of the NEAR protocol. He also is a partner at a legal and regulatory consultancy firm in Switzerland. And last, but certainly not least, we have Christos Eftimiopoulos, who is Assistant Director of Supervision for FinTech at the Bermuda Monetary Authority. Previous to that, he held roles as legal officer and senior analyst in the FinTech and Virtual Currencies Department of the Maltese Financial Services Authority. So as I mentioned, we're going to look at EU digital assets policy a little bit more broadly, and I would ask each panelist to spend a few minutes, about 5 minutes, talking about any general thoughts you may have about the current state of EU digital assets policy and regulation more broadly, but viewed more specifically through your unique perspectives from your respective jurisdictions. What are the lessons learned? What has worked well in your respective jurisdictions, and how you see this landscape evolving going forward. So with that, let's just go down this line, if that's okay, starting from you.
Great. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. From Liechtenstein's perspective, I don't want to reiterate what we've done in the past with our pioneering legislation, the Blockchain Act, but looking forward where we are now, and I want to make basically 2 points: where we are now, where we're headed, and probably the role of regulation in general. So where we're positioned now, in the EU, part of the European Economic Area, and in custom union with Switzerland, so quite unique positioning. We are implementing MiCA, obviously, and our jurisdiction and our financial market authorities, since they have 4 years of hands-on practical experience with supervision and registration of crypto asset service providers, I think that it makes us a really proven and trusted jurisdiction for companies wanting to innovate in that space. Apart from that, we're looking beyond, looking at regulatory and innovative initiatives and aspects beyond MiCA. So we have already introduced or addressed gaps that we identified in MiCA with introducing a token lending service provider roles and regulating also NFT custody activity. And going forward, we're looking into all that infrastructure, legal regulatory frameworks and conditions that still need to be established to allow for the token economy really to thrive. That is, for example, a legal forum for DAOs that is looking into digital and decentralized infrastructure that enable the token economy, like IP tokenization, all of that, which in detail still needs some fine-tuning and adjustments. In general, we are really more promoting we're promoting not to keep doing the same thing. We look for progress and not perfection. So it might not be perfect, but we still have to be bold and go ahead and rather fine-tune along the path instead of staying still and waiting for these technological advancements to just completely overroll us. So yeah, it might not be perfect, but rather fine-tune along the way. And role of regulation, I believe it's like a fence on a mountain path. It is not hindering innovation. If it went done in the right way, then it can actually, it's not preventing us from reaching new heights together with the market players, but actually it helps us doing that safely. And we're doing that, and this is quite funny. When we talk with market participants, I often hear now that they say, well, they realize the only way out is through, and then they say, well, we love regulations, we love regulators. I think when I hear that, I cannot help but think of Stockholm syndrome. So it's yeah, a bit difficult, but it's in a way also true. The market has matured. The market participants have matured. The regulatory activity doesn't allow for any. It's that the Wild West is over, but looking forward with the EU especially, it needs a more nuanced, a more proportionate approach. So we need to focus on the token economic aspects. We need to focus on adjusting the frameworks that they are more fine-tuned and proportionate, so that we don't throw together equality and equity. So we need something that is giving justice to that there are different groups requiring different circumstances, and only when we do that we create an ecosystem that we in Europe are leveraging our pioneering regulatory leadership in actually creating a safe environment, but also one that is not only making it safe, but that is also conducive for innovation.
Yeah. I really like what you said about focus on progress, not perfection, and fine-tuning as you go, which I think is extremely important, especially when you have such an innovative space like ours. So thank you so much. Dr. Cameron?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be with you and to support the work that's being done. Of course, the most important thing about me you actually missed out at the start, which is that I was the first psychologist, clinical psychologist, to be elected to the UK Parliament. So for 10 years, my constituents always told me that our Parliament needed a psychologist, and that's why they voted for me. But that aside, my journey into this sector came really from health tech to fintech, and when I started out in 2022, just at the beginning, and we formed the all-party parliamentary group, at that point in the House of Commons there had been no debates whatsoever on this subject. So there had been one debate in the House of Lords, but nothing in the House of Commons. So we were really starting from a very low bar, in a sense, that we weren't quite sure how things were going to go. And it really took 2 to 3 years of education within the Parliament for us to begin to feel confident to speak about this sector, and actually to learn so much that, you know, we started off with a very fintech model in our minds, but then we began to realise that actually we were on the cusp of a digital revolution, in a sense, globally. And that, you know, this technology is going to change our daily lives in so many ways with the blockchain technology, AI, Web3, the crypto, everything coming together. Would mean that, you know, it's not just about finance, it's about art, sport, culture, health records potentially on the blockchain. So the Parliament really wanted to learn, and the MPs wanted to learn more about use cases and how this will impact people's lives. So that was, you know, when people were engaging in Parliament, I think that's one of the key messages. Please tell the MPs about use cases so that we know how this is going to transform and is going to be transformative. Then we moved on to thinking about jobs and skills of the future, because it's not just about where we are now, as has been eloquently mentioned this morning. It's really about how we progress the regulation. We had many bills through the Parliament. we had the Financial and Services Markets Bill. We've lately, with the new government, had a bill through that it classifies cryptocurrency as property, personal property. So I suppose now when people are getting divorced, they're also thinking about cryptocurrency as well at that stage of their life. It's really becoming embedded in our day-to-day lives. But one of the most pivotal things that happened in the Parliament that I mention when I come to events, because it really stuck with me, was that we had the Youth Parliament. We have young people from all different parts of the UK come to speak to us about what's important for them. And they actually said to us, this sector is very important to us because this is about our jobs of the future. So I feel like this industry has something very special that it holds in its hands, in a sense. It's about future aspiration, and it's about making sure that not just the MPs in the Parliament, as we've been doing, are educated, but that people right across our societies have that opportunity to be involved, particularly as young people are so digitally native. So moving from the Parliament this year, we did all of that education. Then, of course, there was a huge turnover, about 300 new MPs, so we have to start again virtually. But, I always feel that this is a cyclical process. We will continue, and with the Global Legislators Forum, it's about building on the work that's been done, and it's about bringing legislators together from multiple jurisdictions to share best practice, to look at interoperability, because actually this is a global industry and sector, and some of the issues will be about shared principles and shared standards for the future. So we're continuing to do so much work in the UK Parliament. We want to be inviting members of other parliaments there this year in February for a big event that we're holding to bring all of the legislators together to try to learn from what's happening in the EU, to learn from other jurisdictions, because I think together we can really achieve what the young people asked us from the Youth Parliament, and that was to focus on this industry and make sure that they were given the skills and opportunities to be the best that they can and achieve their potential with the new technology.
Thank you so much for all your thoughts, and it's so important to focus on use cases, but also the future generations will keep on using this innovative technology. And thank you also for your 2022 cross-party report on cryptocurrency regulation in the UK as well. Yeah, Alex, please.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, NEAR Foundation is an L1 protocol based in Zug, Switzerland, where also some very reputable and leading protocols are also based. And the role of NEAR Foundation is basically to support NEAR protocol, its development and its growth. Support can be done in many different ways. We have Treasury, and also through Treasury, of course, the ecosystem participants can be supported, but it also includes educational activities and also the policy work. That is why we are very happy members of the CCI, and thank you for having us, and thank you for all the work you do. And maybe since the panel is about the perspective of the of the European regulation, it's also a big question. So how does Switzerland survive being in the middle of the European Union, still not being a part of the not being a member state? And the question that we get a lot these days is oh yeah, but now the foundation and also like other Swiss entities will need to comply with MiCA. Well, I guess the reality is the Swiss entities needs to comply with European law today already without MiCA, and they always had to. And as an important part of our work is also to work with our colleagues very often from Liechtenstein, with like excellent professionals there, because of course if projects that are based in Switzerland, they're active, in other jurisdictions, they already need to comply with the applicable laws today, whatever these laws are. And well, MiCA is just like this new regulation, so we'll just like need to comply with the new regulation, but it doesn't mean that, previously there was no compliance. And from that perspective, I guess, on the Swiss front of things, it's like, the international cooperation is like more important than ever. We appreciate, the exchange that we have with the regulators, that we also have, we can approach through CCI in the European Union, in the UK. We participate in like roundtables, and it's like very important to us to see that we can be heard, because again, we have, as our founder Ilya today pointed out, we have like a lot of really forward-thinking projects lining up, and the idea of the decentralized AI through which the users can control their data and control their experience is very important, and that is why the participation of participation in the discussion that we're having here today is still important, no matter whether you're like a member of the European Union or not.
Amazing, and I agree with everything that you said, and I think what really stood out for me is the importance of international cooperation, regardless of which jurisdiction you're in when it comes to digital assets, so thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Christos?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm from the Bermuda Monetary Authority, from the FinTech department. Our mandate is not solely digital assets, but it's a very big part of the mandate. We also deal with insurance innovation, innovative payments, and innovative investments. On the digital asset side, I'm going to be echoing a lot of comments that have already been made around innovation. This is definitely hard-coded within the BMA's mandate. And I'm going to set the stage around the Digital Asset Business Act framework, the one that we have in Bermuda. I'm going to start from an approach perspective. We follow pretty much, if I were to think it as a pendulum between a rules-based and a principles-based, we are a bit closer to a principles-based approach. We also see that it's more, potentially it's more appropriate in relation to this sector, this very, very fast-paced sector, and the emerging risks that are, we see every month or every other day, and it ensures a risk-based approach. This is also one of the ways potentially to future-proof the legislation and the framework that we have in Bermuda. When it comes to the products and services, again, we are trying to future-proof the framework. From a product standpoint, we followed a slightly different approach. So a digital asset is not of residual nature, as you're going to be finding in the EU regulation. It's if something is being issued on the blockchain, it's a digital asset irrespective of. And then if there are some other features, so for example, it is also an insurance product, or if it is also at the same time an investment, then it may potentially trigger some other licensing requirements, insofar obviously as an activity is being provided. Also digital asset derivatives are included in our digital asset framework in Bermuda. From an activity standpoint, by and large reflect the activities that could be found under MiCA. The list is a bit different, the type of activities and the definitions are a bit different, but we also have one kind of a catch-all definition of a digital asset services vendor activity, which effectively captures any kind of intermediation in relation to digital assets. This is another way to future-proof the framework. Noting that we are seeing new business models, new activities emerging, or potentially the same business lines, the same business models redefining themselves and potentially doing it in a bit of a different way. When these are, this is by and large the framework. However, innovation can be achieved and can be ensured in a different dimension as well, because within the framework we also have different license classes. We are cognizant that we are not talking about only mature entities when it comes to blockchain. We have startups, we are seeing scale-ups. So we do have two types of sandbox licenses. One is more for a proof of concept to identify risks, and the other one is to scale the business, effectively ensuring enhancing compliance, risk management policies and processes. And then third one, we have the class F, which is the full license. When we are assessing a business model, this goes into the implementation and the personalization of the framework. We are seeing it from a lot of different pillars. We are seeing the prudential component. We are seeing the AML/ATF component. We are seeing the cyber risk component. We are asking questions, but we are also questioning around the business case. An example, we can have stablecoin issuer that, depending on the customer base, if they're willing to do it for micropayments, then we're going to be questioning if this blockchain is the best one. We're taking into consideration the consensus mechanism. We're taking into consideration the congestion, the gas fees. Is it conducive to the business model that you want to do? If your institutional base is, if your customer base is institutional, then potentially this is another discussion to be had. Another issue we are seeing is asset tokenization. Asset tokenization can take a lot of different flavors. We are going to be questioning, for example, if we're talking about the tokenization of a commodity, then we are going into the supply chain management, and we're going to be going into the entire life cycle. If we're talking about tokenization of financial instruments, then it's a different discussion. We're going into the bankruptcy remoteness. We're going into the segregation. We are going into the investment mandate, where the underlying investments, the banking assets are invested into. So we are going into this type of discussions. We are zooming in. I'm a lawyer, so I could speak about all day about the blockchain and what we are doing in Bermuda, so I'm going to try to keep it short. What I want to focus is, what I'm going to be wrapping up is in relation to two key messages that I would like to leave the audience. One, definitely the development of a framework is the perfect first step, but one of the main focus areas should also be the implementation, the operationalization of the framework. We are seeing it. We have, DABA was introduced back in 2018, and since then we have 2 or 3 or potentially 4 iterations, introducing new activities, making some tweaks, making sure that it remains fit for purpose. So the operationalization and the supervisory experience that then they are being brought back into the framework, it's very, very critical. So it's not a linear process. We're talking about a loop cycle, which should be the case. And the second, and it's a point that has already been made, and I would like to echo that sentiment, we are seeing that it's a global, it's a cross-border world, and especially after 2022 events, the interconnectedness of the sector was made even clearer. So the creation of regulatory bridges, the communication, the exchange of information, the exchange of best practices, of lessons learned, this is crucial, of supervisory practices, what questions should be asked. This is one of the most significant points that need to be relayed.
Thank you so much. I love your last 2 takeaway points. I know you mentioned this over dinner last night as well, but your first point I think is extremely important, which is it doesn't just end with regulation or implementation, but even through supervision and partnering and learning more from the industry, that's how frameworks can evolve, which I think is extremely important. So thank you. So I want to just wrap up the session by asking each of our panelists. We've talked a lot about policy and regulation, the rules of the road, but what excites you the most about the underlying technology, blockchain and digital assets? How do you think it can make the most positive impact on society? I know we touched upon it, but we could just go down, starting from Crystal's actually this time, with just a quick reaction to that, we can conclude our session.
What I'm not excited about. When it comes to business lines, I'm excited about the business models. When we're talking about the technology, I'm excited about the interoperability and the convergence of different technologies that we already discussed earlier in the day. When it comes to the regulatory developments in relation to blockchain, I'm excited about what we're going to be seeing in 2025. I'm not very excited about the sleep-deprived 2025 that's going to be, but about everything else, I'm absolutely excited about.
Thank you.
So for me, and I guess like for us at Near Foundation, I mean like the hashtag is chain abstraction and the AI development. I mean we are very excited about making blockchain technology for users to be used, because can my grandmother, 95 years old, like use Web3 technology like with today's fragmentation of the market? Absolutely not. And we want this user experience to improve significantly, and important part of it is the regulatory and legal work, and also, I mean, the industry needs to, be less fragmented and like work together more. And we see more and more professionalism also in the industry, as like Dr. Guerra like pointed out, and like working with professionals makes more and more fun. Month after month you see these improvements, and I guess like that is why 2025 will be very interesting. And yes, I mean, like what's less exciting is, of course, there's going to be less time for sleep and hobbies, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just very excited and enthusiastic about this industry. I did some work on the International Development Committee in the House of Commons when I was an MP, and I've been linking with UNESCO and UNHCR and various organisations who are now starting to use the blockchain technology to make sure that the most vulnerable receive the aid, that we can cut out intermediaries, that we can give taxpayers a more transparent system, and that we can really harness financial inclusion. So for me, I think this industry is very, very important, as I said, for young people globally. I mean, when we had the event in the Parliament, the thing that I didn't mention that was quite funny was when the first question was raised, who understands Web3? We had the children there, aged like 10 to 14, the members of the House of Lords, met the MPs. All the children's hands shot up in the air. Hardly any MPs, like not any of the members of the House of Lords. So we have a digital generation. We can really harness financial inclusion, and I actually think this industry has a huge amount to contribute to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in making sure that we leave no one behind, and that we can do so much work for developing nations as well, and making sure that everyone has opportunity to achieve their full potential.
Thank you. Dr. Gill?
Last but not least, well, from my side, I believe blockchain technology really has allowed us to transition from the Internet of Information to the Internet of Value. So with that said, I think maybe blockchain is not, or one of the killer features that it could have is to bring into these AI operating systems the trust layer that we need to make these developments transparent and safe and efficient. And so I see a lot of potential in the blockchain application as a trust layer for AI operating systems.
Great. Please join me in thanking your amazing and expert panelists.